It's time to do 55 minutes of business. That's what we do on Business Incorporated. And we have some things prepared for you, beginning with Nigeria. The NIN-SIM linkage is still an issue in the country. More than 13 million lines were barred in the first half of the year. And then we look at corporate earnings. They're streaming in from the banks, the financial sector, as well as other parts. And oil is booming, almost 2% gain within 24 hours. Find out why. Great to have you on the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start business from that oil boom, which is happening now. And we see that Brent futures topped $80 a barrel threshold on Wednesday as Iran's claim that Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated, and it reignited tensions in the Middle East. The ICE Brent contracts with September expiry were trading at $80.32 a barrel, and that's up 2.15% from the Tuesday close price. Front-month September NGX WTI futures were at $76.55 a barrel, higher by 2.44% from the previous day. Of course, this is for September futures. Oil gained ground amidst exacerbated hostilities in the oil-rich Middle East, where Israel has been fighting Iran-backed Palestinian militant group Hamas since the latest terror attack in October. The Jewish state's decision to carry out a retaliatory campaign in the Gaza Strip has since broadened the conflict, with Israel trading fire with other Iran-supported factions such as Lebanon's Hezbollah and Yemen's Houthi. In the metal space now, we see that metals also are getting some of those grounds at intraday. Looking at gold, we saw that also did gain some ground also, as well as silver and platinum. These are some of the metals that are in the front burner at this time. And then we head to the corporate markets here in Nigeria, beginning with FBN Holdings. We see FBN Holdings results, earnings season, and companies listed, of course, on the NGX. There you have for FBN Holdings for the second quarter, which is half year 2024, showing a pre-tax profit of 177.79 billion. That's about 18.9% year-on-year growth. That's for pre-tax profit. Then a pre-tax profit boosted half-year profitability to a record high of 411.9 billion naira for the group, marking its best ever half-year performance on record. FBN Holdings half-year profit of 411.9 billion is more than double the 205 billion pre-tax profit that was reported in the same period in 2023. And then we look at Nestle. Nestle is also sharing its report. We see that it posted a pre-tax loss this time of 252.5 billion in the half year 2024, marking a 265% year-on-year decrease from the 69.1 billion pre-tax loss that was posted in the first half of 2023. During the period, the company posted a revenue of 407 billion, representing 55% year-on-year from the 261.8 billion posted in the first half of 2023. The company's gross profit hit 127.3 billion, marking a 19% year-on-year growth from 107 billion naira. And then we look at MTN. MTN also, they do have a whole lot of information. Total subscribers for MTN increased by 2.9% to 79.4%. Active data users increased by 11.1 to 45.6 million. And that's the active mobile money. You know, their Momo wallet increased also by 73.9%. Service revenue increased by 32.6%. EBITDA decreased by 17.4%. Profit after tax was at 519.1 billion naira, while profit after tax adjusted for the net forex losses was down 56%. Earnings per share was negative, unfortunately, at 24 naira 7 kobo. And then, of course, we have the capital expenditure also increased by 19.9% for MTN. All right, now, earlier today, Ladi Williams did speak to the Group Managing Director of Wakana. We know that the protest is upon us. Tomorrow is the first day in August. The planned protest is expected to start tomorrow. What can this do to the aviation sector? Mr. Bayo Adedeji shared this during Business Morning.
The impact is big. And the impact on the economy is massive. You know, if all airlines cancel flights tomorrow, think about the impact, think about the financial loss, think about how we're going to have to manage passengers, think about all the things that is going to follow that, think about change fees. Some of these international airlines don't give us a quota that if your flight was cancelled or you missed your flight because you couldn't make it to the airport, you're going to have to pay cancellation fees, change fees. We're now working with the airlines to see all the things we can do. We have a daily run rate of about 4 to 5 billion. Naira daily from the NGX standpoint. Total industry is about, I think I would estimate about between 10 and 15 billion. So now you have a delayed sale of 15 billion in one day. That means that 15 billion naira of transactions that has occurred probably in the past or currently on that day will not be able to be used or consumed of services that has been paid for.
Yeah, so it's tomorrow there, and people are counting the cost. I know that Dr. Mbude Yusuf, the Chief Executive Officer of a Center for Private Enterprises, had told us that it will cost the nation about 400 billion naira daily for the protest. Obviously, looking at the issue of meetings, flights such as that, even the markets, both the commodities market and the financial market, what's going to happen, transactions and seminars, everything like that. But let's find out even more about this, maybe from outside Lagos and some other issues connected to this, with the Managing Director of Benue Investment and Property Company, Dr. Raymond Asemaka. He joins us from Makurdi, the capital of Benue State. Dr. Asemaka, thank you so much for your time. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so the vibes of protest seems to be building up here in Lagos. Perhaps just before we delve into your investment conversation, do tell us, what's it like in Benue State now concerning the protests?
Yeah, we in Benue, I don't think there's going to be a protest because the governor, the executive governor, is doing what the masses want. And I know that with what's happening and the indicators that are happening, I think we're on the right track. So I don't see the protester protesting.
Yeah, but I think one thing that is worth emphasizing is, people obviously have the right to protest, but it should be peaceful. Even the presidency has said that. So I do hope that if people want to protest, the state is not against it.
Not at all, not at all, not at all.
All right. So we have Fitch ratings. Fitch did give a positive and upward outlook on Benue, the national long-term rating to positive. It used to be stable and affirmed your rating at A. What does this mean for the state?
All right. When we came in, this administration under the leadership of the executive governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Harrison Talia, we've choose because he critical and carefully choose professional people that they are working with him. So quickly we swing into action and we did what they call the state action on business enabling reform. It's a standard And the reason why we did that, because we want our workings to be transparent for people to see, to know what we are doing. We are not running in a business that is going to be in people's pockets alone. We are running a business that people should see and know and have comment and have value proposition of what the state is doing. So we did Fitch rating. Fitch rating is one of the things that give investors confidence to invest in the state. When we started the month of January with the rating, they gave us a B negative. And they've looked at what we have been doing in terms of transparency, in terms of utilizing the performance of the incentive that we've been getting from the federal government. And basically, when our indicators begin to change up of what we started doing, they looked at us because they follow us from day one to see what we are doing, to see that if we're actually going in line with the feature rating, in line with the views, in line with the action plan that we have stabilized to do. So they looked at it and they feel it is important they review, because it's a quarterly review. They have done a quarterly review. So we started January, which we were negative, and they have reversed to positive and a negative, meaning that we have followed the guidelines, the rules and regulations of transparency. And that is why me seated here as the managing director of Benue Investment, I am also the reform champion for the state in terms of state action on business enabling environment. If you go on the Benue State side, you will see that all our working in terms of even the CFO, in terms of the revenue generation, and even the spending, they're already there. We published that, including our budget spending and other. And that is why they are able to reverse from the negative rating to the positive. What that means is that investors from all the world, most of them have started coming. And that can also make us to also raise bonds of over 100 billion from the capital market. So that is the reason why they have reversed our rating to where we are today. It's a buzz for Benue State. This has never happened before now. In the time past, you see that in the past administration, you see a lot of people, the previous administration, they signed a lot of MOU, but none that was executed. The reason is because there was no rating for the investors to come and see that do you people actually have rating. For as we speak, Benue State have rating and we are not in the positive. So we can even get a lot of liquidities from raise funding from capital market to, inject in the state. If you hear recently, yesterday, there was a publication about raising about 93 billion bond. So those are the things that we're bringing in place. There are new innovative that the state will bring because His Excellency have carefully selected people that understand the figure and know exactly where the world is going. That is why we have that rating.
All right, Dr. Asamoka. Well, congratulations. But I guess the bigger applause will come when we see what you will use this rating for, because it's not just about getting the rating, but what do you use it for? We know it is easy to get FPI, or it's easier to get FPIs, portfolio investment, but how much direct investment, sustainable investment? I mean, we know Benue for agriculture. Yam from Benue is one of the sweetest that I know from this country. Nigeria is supposed to be the largest producer of yam, yet we cannot export it. So, I mean, it remains to see what you use this positive rating for beyond what we have on paper.
Yes, if you see presently what we are doing industrial revolution, unlocking the Benin economic potential. So we have done a whole lot in terms of changing this. As we speak, in a couple of 2 months coming up, you see that Benin will begin to introduce a lot of, usually we used to have a lot of post-harvest loss. But when we came in, we began to carefully take those things and refine them to be a positive product. As we speak, Benue's investment have just took a Benue Fruits. Juice is a company that was moribund, that was abandoned. We are trying to revive most of those dormant businesses. So we are doing a whole lot of backward integration. I remember when I came in, we also talked about bringing back our beer. Because in the time past, Benue State used to have, there were just two things that happened in Benue: disruption mechanism. We used to have a Dangote, Benue Cement, it was taken from us. We used to have also beer production, it was taken from, and those were the things that were giving a lot of economic activities in the states. So when we came in, we have now started doing, as we speak, Benue Full Basket beer is within 45% completion of the new beer. So we know that we want to hold our money and let it circulate within the system. Those are the things that we are doing. So there's going to be a lot of backward integration where the common man will also have value for his money. We're also trying to put mechanisms in place that will reduce the post-harvest losses that we've ever witnessed before. So as Benue State being an agrarian state, we have remodify the workings. And that is why we are currently doing what they call the industrial revolution to ensure that we plug in all what we have in one basket, so that the basket will go back to the original state that it was created before.
Yeah, we certainly look forward to that. But this revitalization of the companies and factories you're talking about, is it being done by the government or is it the private sector? And what's the future plan, the sustainable plan for it?
Yes, the government have lead the way. We are government. We have lead the way to ensure there's reforms and policy. Where we came in, we were driving on a lot of reforms, strange reform and policy. That when investors is coming, they should be. You can do working of papers for your business within 48 hours in Benue State as we speak. This have never happened before now. You can get all the CFO within 72 hours. Those things have never happened before. Those are the things that give investors confidence to come and work. When we resume, we did what they call the local investors forum, because we understand that the local investors that have invested in the state, we need to hear from them. We need to understand what has been the same condition that have been making them not to be effective. We have from them that we develop policies and products that will help them. Holding the local investors was one of the primary assignments that we wanted to do under the leadership of the executive governor of Benue State. So as we speak today, we can see that we have successfully hold the local investor and the foreign investors. You can see they have been coming to Benue State on a daily basis. We have done survey how our hotels accommodation have been fully booked almost on every day, because the new sheriff is in town and we are doing the right thing that will make the investors to have confidence in us. We have a lot of them coming to Benue State. That is why we say that the state have been able to raise have this rating as we speak today, reverse from a negative to a positive or A-.
Yeah, so the issue of infrastructure obviously is an important factor when you want to turn these ratings to investment opportunities, because, for instance, being an agrarian state, you need to connect the rural and the urban area, connect the farms to the market. What's the state doing about that to be able to, that of course will reduce travel time, post-harvest losses, and all of that?
As we speak today, the state is currently constructing about 500 road connectivity from the rural area to the market to the farmer. So that is what is currently happening. Maybe you need to visit Benue State to see. In the time past, you were hearing a lot of negative things about Benue State. But as we speak, there's a lot of things that are happening in Benue State. The road connectivity is ongoing as we speak. You can see those things in the news. Yeah, so there's a lot. We have also tried as much as possible. We are currently doing what they call the agro hub, commodity hub. We connect the seller to the buyer and bring one thing in a one-stop shop. So that's the way we are moving forward. I know that it's currently in the starting stage, but in the couple of 12 to 16 months, we should be arriving to the finishing stage. So those are the things that we are doing. Being an agrarian state, we need as much as possible to handle this thing professionally, and that is where we are as we speak today.
So what's the target? Is your target the domestic investors, the international one, and what timelines are you giving yourself? So we'll be able to check to see if really you're moving or, you're not.
Yeah, we are doing both the domestic and international. I can tell you that, in Benue State, we have one of the things, being agrarian state contributes about 75% of what we do in terms of the system seed, we produce about 75% of the entire country. The soya beans will also produce about 75%. And the yam, which you know that we don't even export our yam, it's Ghana that come here to buy our yam and remodel it and sell it. So those are the things that we are doing. The timeline we are giving ourselves, come in November, we'll start off taking ourselves. We won't allow people to just come to Benue State to take our produce, go and clean it up and export it. We want to be doing it by ourselves so that we'll be able to, drive the investment, the effects back to the states. So that's the model that we have put in place. We are going to start off taking it so that the farmer will have value for his or her money as when due.
All right, thank you so much for that. And wish you the very best in your plans and your target, right there, the Managing Director of Benue Investment and Property Company, Dr. Raymond Asemuka, for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Welcome back. Still watching Business Incorporated right here on Channels Television. Now, just before we head to the market, well, it's still the market. Let's see Lafarge. Lafarge also, they did release their results. If we could have the slide, there you have it. Lafarge for the second quarter, their profit after tax, 37.9 billion after tax. That's an increase of about 13%. Earnings per share also went up 18.11, and then total assets also went up. So we're getting some positive results at the close of trade today. There you have even more from them. We see revenue is up by 49.6% year on year. We also have the gross profit went up also for the year. That's a second quarter, the 2024 to second quarter 2023. Pre-tax profit also went up almost 16%. And then we see operating profit also went up. So we see a lot of greens for Lafarge. They're good for the industrial goods industry. See if that will attract investors. At the close of trade, we will see reaction to some of this. It will reflect in some of those. Apart from MTN, I think they came out there to tell us it was all loss. The FX issue hasn't helped matters for that. But more results are coming and we'll keep you informed. I'm sure Will Ibong even has some. So we in fact, it's the website, NGX website, it's so busy.
There's so much inflows from earnings, from companies. The influx has been inundated. They've been inundated with earnings report.
Yes,
and I'm wondering,
their season.
It's a season.
Yeah, but what surprises me, Will, is that we know the issue with FX and how it's been affecting a lot of corporates in the country. So apart from a company like Airtel Africa, they were very explicit in telling us the impact of the value naira on them. We still see a lot of companies still declaring profits. I guess that's why the banks, because I spoke to the CIBN president last week about the 70% windfall tax, and the banks are like, we're not the only ones benefiting. Could you please look at the other sectors also? Perhaps you should also introduce windfall tax, on them, because, these are profits.
Yes, of course. And the banks are being targeted because maybe they're the ones really a bit prominent in the economy, because you look at, a lot of gains that have been declared. It's the banking sector that are declaring impressive and, great results. So the government is looking and saying, these numbers are coming from the banking sector. So maybe we need to, get some from there as well.
I just had an idea. Why don't we also look at windfall tax for the government?
Yes.
Because at the removal
like
of the
that.
subsidy,
Okay.
the earnings of the government,
So
the thinkers of government increase.
Who
So
taxes
can we
the
get
government?
windfall tax from the government too, please?
It's more like, can we get the windfall tax and tell them to, focus it on doing something of positive good for the country?
Well,
that's actually how we'll get the tax.
I wish.
So we'll just kick off with sentiments in the market, seeing major equities in Africa doing great at intraday, actually. Sentiments were positive. We see Nigeria's NGX rebounding from the loss they saw yesterday, up 0.12% at intraday, but still at 97,000 points, inching closer to 98, hoping, catch up very quickly. And we'll see South Africa there, up 1.6%, very strong index there, very strong uptick. And let's look at the EGX 30 in Egypt. It was also up more than 1%. That's 1.02% to be precise, up 29,000 level. And then we see Kenya closing Tuesday's session in positive territory. So it's up 1.68%. Very good numbers. But let's look at what's happening at the NGX, but we're going to be talking about details with the banking sector, focusing on it, seeing what investor sentiments are around that, especially with the ongoing bank recapitalization, the directive from the Central Bank of Nigeria. We're going to be speaking to Stanley Amuche. He's the executive director of Fidelity Bank. Good afternoon, Mr. Stanley. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Will. Good afternoon for having me.
It's just very interesting what's going on right now, especially the NGX has been a buzz with, facts behind the presentations, the offerings, the public offerings, and the rights issues. Could you just break it down what this means for investors, especially, could you tell us how this has been so far, investor sentiments towards the recapitalization drive?
Okay, good. Thank you very much. From Fidelity Bank, of course, we are the first bank to come into the market. We got into the market on the 20th of June, and what we've seen is strong appetite from investors. Investors received our offer very well, so we've seen a lot of interest. Subscription is very strong, and that's what is going on. And we've also seen other banks come into the market within the same period. So it's a very exciting time. Investors are looking at the fundamentals of all these organizations. Before investing, they look at how you performed over the period. And I think that is also fueling the level of interest we're seeing so far.
Okay, talking about investors' interest, is this equity investment, is it a good opportunity, especially now that we have this FX, the devaluation of the Naira, so people are seeking more FX to probably shore up, their reserves, and also to edge against inflation. So what opportunities are there for the capital market, especially for equities right now?
Yeah, so investing in equity is one form of investment. So, the advice you want to give to any investor is to diversify your investment. So you don't want to leave all your investment in one bucket. You don't want to do only FX. There's still opportunity to be part of this, because aside what we see today, if you have an organization like a bank that has very strong fundamentals, we expect a lot of inflows through payment of dividend, through capital appreciation, and that can happen even above whatever the inflation rate is today. So the fact that, yes, the FX is, we have these concerns around FX currently, it won't last forever. So what we expect investors to do is put some in FX, put some in buying property, put some in equity. This is just a way of diversifying, and that's the right thing to do for an investor. Okay, so investors should diversify in Forex and equities, have a mixed bag of everything, not just put their eggs in one basket. But we're looking at the proposed 70% windfall tax on, on the gains the banks got from FX devaluation gains proposed by the federal government. How is this impacting banking operations? And do you see it impacting on banking operations and expansion plans, if there are any, for most of these domestic banks we have here? Yeah, so we've seen concerns from investors who have asked, how does this affect you and all that? So that whole concern will be there, because investors will look at, if you're investing, you want them to retain, any company you're investing will retain their earnings and be able to pay good dividend to investors, and will create some level of appreciation because of the earnings they're accumulating and all that. But it is what it is. I think banks, there are a lot of discussions going on at different levels, even around what the percentage is. We've had 70, there was initially 50. So those discussions are going on as we speak. But specifically, we need to look at every organization will look at how that impacts you as an organization. Like for us, Fidelity Bank, I think the market understands where we are, where we stand there, and that has been factored into the kind of pricing the market has given to our offer. 2023 total FS revaluation for Fidelity was around 44 billion. So if you take a 70%, that gives you 31 or 30.8 billion. You take a 50, that's 22 billion. So what it means is that these are not so material to impact our ability to pay to investors or to make investors happy. So we believe that this is something, it's not a very high percentage of even our capital, if we look at our capital levels, and that will not affect our operations or performance going forward. So those are the things I have seen that investors are looking at. And if you look at the market today and even closing numbers yesterday, you will see that the offer price for our offers is much lower, and we're still trading at a discount to the market. Market is doing close yesterday at 10 naira 50 kobo, and we're offering at 9 naira 75 kobo. That's a very good discount because the market perceives that what we're selling, the shares are selling, should be priced better or should price higher than the price we're coming out with. So investors are very happy with the pricing because they also see that the impact of all the windfall and all that is not very strong or very material for a Fidelity Bank, for example.
Okay, just speaking of your offer and your pricing, we saw in the news you're extending the public offer and the rights issue that you have ongoing right now. Why do you want an extension? Can you talk about that?
Okay, good. So if we recall that we started this process a lot earlier than when central bank announced the recapitalization of the industry. We got the approval of our shareholders on the 11th of August to issue 10 billion units of shares by way of public offering and 3.2 by way of right issue. This was an outcome of our capital needs assessment, which we did internally, and that was the first phase of the implementation. So that process was in flight before CBN in 2024 announced the recapitalization of the industry. So what we did, as soon as we opened to the market, we saw investors who were very interested in investing so much. And because the question was, are you going to return money? Because our appetite, if we put in all that we need, we'll see a situation where money will be returned. So being a listening bank, what we did as a bank, we had to approach our shareholders, and we held an AGM on the 26th of July, that was on Friday, to ask that we increase the number of shares on offer in a way that can accommodate any oversubscription. So what we have seen happen after that, some investors are now trying to optimize their interest or their subscription. We've seen people come in to top up what they've subscribed for before. So that is what's happening now, and we're giving that opportunity to those who were concerned before about our returning their money to top up, because we can then accommodate as much as possible whatever they come up with. Secondly, the NGX just started the virtual platform for subscription. We started that discussion earlier. It didn't start up to about 13 days into our offer. So most retail investors who wanted to use that platform didn't have the opportunity within the 28 days allowed. So with this extension, it gives them that opportunity again to be able to subscribe through that platform. So two issues here. Those who want to top up they can do that now. And then for those retail investors that want to use the platform, they have the full 28 days to be able to achieve that. That's the essence of the extension, actually.
Okay, speaking of the NGX Invest App, could you speak about the traction Fidelity Bank and maybe other banks have had using that app for the public offer and rights issues? There been any clamor from investors to go online on the platform and, place their offers?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of traction. Actually, we had some roadshows about this offer in the US and all other parts of the world. And what we're seeing that most of them, they find very cumbersome that process of filling out hard copy forms and all that. So people find it very easy to go out there, fill out the information and subscribe straight away. And then they'll be able to track because you have the track on the platform as you apply and all that. So we're seeing a lot of traction. I think it's a very good development. And people, that's the direction of investment and a lot of things we do today in the industry. So it's a very, very good development. And I think the traction will even grow as people begin to get used to it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stanley Amuche, Executive Director of Fidelity Bank, for sharing those insights and perspective on what's happening, especially in the banking sector. And investors got good insights on what they have to benefit from the extension of the Fidelity offer and also the banking stocks that are on offer. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So we'll move on to other major equities now in the Gulf, where it was mixed at intraday as investors await the Fed's rate decision. It's happening today. Now we see Abu Dhabi index down 0.83%. So mixed performance, as I mentioned. Dubai is also down 0.43%. Now still within the region, Saudi and Qatari indexes were in the green, 0.13% and 0.04% each. Now let's look at the US, where the action is. Stock futures rose in early trade today as investors assess the latest earnings. It's earnings season, and they're readying themselves for the Federal Reserve monetary policy decision, which is taking place later today. Now, the futures tied to the Dow Jones were up 0.35%. We see S&P 500 futures also popping nearly 1% there, 0.97%. And the Nasdaq climbed 1.5%. Big one for that index. Now, the Fed is slated to wrap its two-day policy meeting today. That's Wednesday. And the central bank is expected to keep rates steady. But the focus will be on the chair, Jerome Powell, and whether he offers any signs that cuts may be on the near horizon. While we wait for that decision, let's check out highlights from Tuesday's performance with our correspondent, Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market slid downward on Tuesday as companies like NVIDIA showed drop in earnings by 7%. It is clear that investors are watching to see what will happen ahead of the Federal Reserve meeting. This meeting is expected to be one that will tell us whether interest rates will drop in the near future. It is also clear that the U.S. jobs reports, along with the big tech quarterly earnings being released, are also being a driver for the U.S. stock market. This driving force is causing the stock market to show a decline as the Dow Jones was down by 0.5%. The S&P 500 was also down by 0.5%. Investors are watching to see what will happen over the next days and weeks ahead, as this week is one that will show the strength of the U.S. economy.
Thank you, Maria. Definitely we'll wait to see how that impacts the U.S. economy. Now look at Asia. Let's look at the markets. It rose and closed Wednesday with very good sentiment, obviously, as investors assess China's business activity, and with Japan's Nikkei 225 reversing course and logging gains after the country's central bank raised the benchmark interest rates to around 0.25%. And there were mixed sentiments. Expectations were that some analysts felt the bank was going to hold rates, and others felt the bank was going to hike rates. But we did see that, rates, what the decision was from the Central Bank of Japan. Now, Japan's Nikkei 225 rose 1.49% to 39,000, climbing higher. It was going to hit 40,000 in time. Since South Korea, Kospi rose 1.19% to 2,770 points, and we see the Hang Seng Index in China nearly 2% up. That's a brainer. It led the gains in that region, in the markets there. Now, mainland Shanghai Index, that's also in China, also rose 2% to close. We see that 2.06% to 2,938 points. Now, also in Australia, we're seeing that fantastic close, 1.75% to end at a record high of 8,092 points. After the inflation report in the country, investors are really bullish and things are really happening there. A lot of positive vibes from the Asian market right now. I just want to rub all this green and hope that the NGX does close. That's the domestic equities market here, does close in the green at the close of the bell.
You know, when you said that the market, the NGX recovered at the beginning of your session, I was like, come on, Will, don't say that.
Oh, no.
We've gone from more than 100,000 to just about 97, 98. We haven't recovered yet.
Oh, no,
we're on the road to recovery.
Stay positive, that's the word.
Don't forget that the protest starts tomorrow. We don't know what that will do to the market. We're talking about central banks and their decision. It's a big week of central bank interest rate decisions. We just heard about the Bank of Japan. There's the Federal Reserve. We're expecting to get that decision today. The Bank of England is there. They're giving temperature reading of their economies. Let's hear what's going on in Berlin on what this central bank's decision could mean for those economies and a whole lot more. Cassandra has the details. Hi, Cassandra. Good afternoon. I wonder what EU is looking at.
Thanks for having me, Innie. Well, it's been a historic year for the Bank of Japan, which hiked interest rates for only the second time in 17 years. This second rates rise today follows a rates rise in March that was a huge shift from a long-running campaign of negative interest rates. These moves are essentially designed to try to kickstart the Japanese economy, which has been sputtering lately. Now, the decision today puts interest rates, which used to be below zero, up to 0.25%.
So we're looking the way of the U.S. now. Any little bird tell you what they're discussing, what they may discuss, what they may decide?
Well, unlike the Bank of Japan, the Federal Reserve in the U.S. has had a much more aggressive strategy when it comes to rates. Rates have held steady in the current 5.25 to 5.5 range for about a year now. The Federal Reserve meeting started yesterday, and it's possible but not expected that Chairman Jerome Powell will announce a rates cut today. What's more likely at the moment is that Powell and these other decision makers will see the next few months as their finale, so to speak, in the fight against inflation, which government officials like to see closer to 2%, as opposed to the near double digits that many countries in Europe and North America have seen in recent years. Here in Europe, the Bank of England is also considering a rates cut. There have been encouraging signs in the UK when it comes to inflationary pressure letting up. Traders in swaps markets are placing the probability of around 60% that the BOE will lower rates from their 16-year high of 5.25.
All right, Cassandra, let's look at what investors are doing intraday.
Europe's main stock markets opened sharply higher today. That's on growing hopes that the Fed will signal that some kind of U.S. interest rate cuts are on the way. The London FTSE 100 index gained 1.1%. Here in the Eurozone, the Paris CAC 40 rose 1.2%, and the Frankfurt DAX went up 0.7%. It seems all eyes are on these potential rates decisions from the U.S. and the U.K. in the coming hours.
All right, Cassandra Sons, thank you so much for that. Now let's come to Nigeria, where MTN Nigeria and the Nigerian arm of Airtel Africa barred 13.5 million lines in the first half of 2024. And that's in connection with the Nigerian Communications Commission directive to disconnect lines that have not been successfully linked with a national identification number. So I know a lot of people had that blockage earlier this week, and we had that directive from the NCC to unblock all lines, but they say it was because of this. The telcos announced this in their financial results. Of course, we saw that of MTN earlier for the period ending June 30, 2024. At the end of 2023, the NCC asked telcos to disconnect lines that had not been successfully linked with a NIN across 3 phases. It said that all SIMs for which the subscribers have not submitted their NINs are to be barred from February, supposed to be from February 28, 2024, where 5 or more SIMs were linked to an unverified link, then they are yet to also be barred. So perhaps that was one of the reasons, or for some other reasons, as some other people did allege too. From Nigeria, we head to South Africa, where the South African Reserve Bank has announced that it expects to complete a payment of 100 billion rands in profit from the gold and foreign exchange contingency reserve account within the next 2 weeks. Earlier in 2024, the National Treasury stated that it would use funds from this account managed by the central bank to help cover some of its debt servicing costs. During the SARB's annual general meeting in Pretoria, Governor Leseja Kagango provided an update on the transaction.
Foreign counterparties have been applying greater scrutiny for our domestic institutions as a result of the FATF grey listing. The PA has found no immediate negative impact on correspondent banking relationships. It is nevertheless imperative that the action items are addressed timeously to avoid long-term negative effects on the economy. Moving to operational matters, during the year under review, the SAP saw the overhaul of its balance sheet with the introduction of new arrangements governing the gold and foreign exchange contingency reserve account, GFECRA. Announced in February 2024, the new GFECRA framework will allow government to access a portion of these funds to reduce debt issuance while providing the SAP with a stronger capital position.
All right, now let's head to the crypto space with Laddie Williams. Laddie, how are you preparing for the protests from tomorrow?
Wow, yeah, just keeping a cool head at this point and just watching things unfold, but definitely we're going to be covering whatever happens, from tomorrow. So, yeah, we're
just watch out on channels.
We'll just watch Channels TV and we're going to let you know whatever happens, if there's a protest
every part of
or
the country.
Not, whatever part of the country you're watching, and definitely will give you all of that detail there. But looking at the market, definitely, crypto market, we're seeing red, at this point from that pullback we saw yesterday. Bitcoin try to get above that 70,000 level. But we saw a lot of sell pressure right there at 69,000, 0.8% for Bitcoin. So it's mostly red sentiment right there in the market. But the pockets of green we have the likes of Solana, XRP, BNB, TON. We know TON has been in the news a lot lately because of we see most of these games actually launching on the TON blockchain, like Hamster, Combat. I have different games at this point, and that's bringing a lot of pressure on the TON blockchain. But everyone's still most investors trying to know when games like Hamster Combat, the other games that are launching on TON blockchain, when they're going to actually share most of these coins, because we know when all the participants get into these projects, they want to get some coins back so they can sell once they list. So we'll see what happens with the TON blockchain when Hamster Combat actually lists. But let's look at the sentiment in the market. It's neutral. It was tending towards greed at some point last week, but now we're back to neutral. So investors are still trying to decide whether to go all in at this point or still sell most of the profit at this time. So it's neutral, and that's for the fear greed index. So the way some investors use the fear greed index, when the market is fearful, that's the time they feel like, okay, this is the best time to actually come in to the market. When it's neutral, also seems like a good time because it's not greedy, it's not bearish. But when it gets greedy, some say, you know what, it's time. I think I've overstayed my time in the market. It's time to get out. So that's how most investors use the fear greed index. But let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track. We see Bitcoin 0.83% down. Ethereum's been in the news lately. $3,308 per coin after the spot Ethereum ETF that launched. Definitely, we saw a lot of outflows. Investors, selling off most of the Ethereum ETFs there, and we see that impacting the price. A drop there, even though there was a time we saw Bitcoin in the green, Ethereum, Bitcoin in red, then we saw Ethereum in the green. So that has flipped. Just like the outflows from Bitcoin ETFs impacts Bitcoin's price, and we see that happening to Ethereum right about now. 0.81%, that's down for Ethereum. But on the flip side, Binance Coin, that's the BNB, that's a native coin for the Binance token, $585.21, 2.03%. That's one of the big gainers of the top 100 cryptocurrencies we track, followed by XRP. See some bullish news on XRP there, pushing it above that 50-cent level. Been used to the 50-cent range for the longest time. Now 3.53%. So that's the biggest gainer with the cryptocurrencies we track on the top 100 coins on the market. All right, let's look at the top stories now in the crypto space. We see Russia they've legalized Bitcoin for international payments. There was a time I and Ini used to cover Russia a lot there, where Russia actually invaded Ukraine. So we used to track the economic impacts, commodities market, and all of that. I'm sure you still remember that, Ini. We were dreaming talking Russia all day, and now we see that they've actually legalized cryptocurrency for international payments.
But I think Ukraine has done this before now, because remember when Ukraine was trying to get donation from different parts of the world, so they did turn to cryptocurrency as a form of, getting donations.
Yeah, with the NFTs.
Yes, while on the other hand, Russia then did restrict the usage of cryptocurrency in their country, especially by indigenous or residents and domestic use, because I think they thought perhaps Ukraine was...
It's okay for the government to use it, but the citizens cannot use
they couldn't use it. Perhaps they trust their aim more than that of the people, But so now having Russia to actually legalize it for international trade, I don't know, maybe that's just one step higher.
The conversations about the great de-dollarization.
Yes.
We see maybe this might actually be, ushering us into that. But who knows? Who knows when that's going to happen?
Who knows?
Experts say that's many, many years from now before the dollar loses its dominance. But let's bring in Rume at this time. Hello, Rume Ofe. Great to have you.
Hello, Larry.
Yeah, great to have you, Rume. So I know you're always tracking, big news in the markets at this time. And now we're seeing Russia actually legalizing cryptocurrency for international payments at this time. Talk to me about this moment right here.
It's what we have been waiting for a while now. As it's on challenges as well. Advising the government we need to protect their interests, because a lot of things are denominated in the dollar. Currencies, if the various countries also, in a way, stable coins that are based on their currency, as in essence, other cryptocurrencies, they have to secure their interest as their own sovereign currency will not be affected, because if you just $2, because a couple of persons are dollar to their indigenous currency, maybe like the Naira, it becomes a very serious threat to their currency dying every time, and that is not also very good. So in doing all of this, we need to keep in mind all of the risks that are involved, and you have to be very, very selfish when it comes to your indigenous currency in terms of using digital assets. So the idea of CBDCs cannot actually come in, but I would prefer a stable coin that is Naira, or maybe a rupee, or maybe cedis, or based on all of that.
All right, and definitely we've been talking about, we've heard conversations about de-dollarization. We've seen that agreement between Saudi Arabia and U.S. We're still talking about that. Are they going to renew it? That's the petro dollar deal. But do you think this de-dollarization process is it starting to move fast enough? At this time, or you still see it many years after?
A lot of people talk about de-dollarization, and they make it look like it's going to happen because of the price and all of those things. I don't think it's going to happen now. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime, because the dollar is the world reserve currency and is very, very strong right now. In fact, when immediately they talk about de-dollarization, the dollar gets even more stronger. So for now, it's a concept that will happen in the future, but I don't think now it's something feasible, Adi.
All right, let's look at the month. This is the final trading day of July. We're heading into August. Tomorrow, what do you see for Bitcoin price action in July? I think it started the month around sub $65,000. So we did see some profit, with Bitcoin in the month of July.
I am not optimistic at all, Adi, because the truth is that you see the BOJ have actually hiked rates. We'll be hearing the Fed chair, that the US Fed chair is going to speak in a few hours from now. So I think that August is not going to be good. In fact, the rest of the year, I don't expect the Fed to cut rates, because a lot of people are anticipating that, and they're making their bets based on that. They are going to be disappointed. I don't see anything good coming up from that. It's going to be some heavy bloodbath, Ladi.
So if the U.S. Fed, let's say fast forward to September, they don't cut rates, is that really, really, really bad for Bitcoin, really?
If they don't cut rates, it's going to be bad for Bitcoin. Most especially, if they bring in the question of maybe rates hike, because inflation has been very stubborn and it's becoming clear. And risky assets are at the mercy of the rate that is still very high. So I don't see anything good for that right now for crypto in the short term. But in the long term, fantastic. We'll see Bitcoin doing amazing stuff.
All right, we'll definitely keep watching out. Thank you so much, Rome Ofi. Always great having your perspective.
Always a pleasure, Ladi. Always a pleasure.
All right, so to see the market, definitely Bitcoin, not a bad performance this month. I think it's up about, 5%, about 10% this month. But definitely, historically, we've heard some analysts say August is not really the best time for price action when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum. But investors still waiting, hoping for that altcoin season. Who knows when that's going to happen? But definitely, we know this market. Investors just want to know when the U.S. are going to cut rates. But I remember when the rates were really high, we saw most of these risk assets really do well. But now everyone's just wanting the U.S. Fed to actually cut rates, so all these assets will then do well. But who knows? Is that really going to happen?
Yeah, well, the way it is. It's not really, well, it's just forecast and hope maybe on the one hand. But Ladi, one thing, when you were talking to Rume, you were like, if the reserve does not cut rates by September, is it going to be really, 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 really bad? Really. I think that's what we're holding our breath for come September. But I guess even before September, we would have an idea, because analysts keep giving us percentage of expectation that there'll be cuts in interest rates in the United States by September.
Right. We'll definitely keep watching, because I have this thought that fine, risk assets did well when rates were going up, rates stayed really high.
So why do we want it down now?
So imagine when rates start coming down, then risk assets start doing badly.
No, don't worry, we'll deal with it.
That's just in my head.
We'll deal with it. Let it remain in your head.
Thank you.
All right, Ladi. Well, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated. Tomorrow is the very first day in August, and planned protesters are telling us it will be hardship protests, end to bad governance. We're following the story. We can invite you to stick to Channels Television. We will certainly give you the updates. I wonder if the markets will be open tomorrow, but I'll see you tonight for Stock Market.